Imagine, for thousands of years, they have been erasing traces of the greatest civilization, burning libraries, and scattering the survivors. But stones don't lie. What if Atlantis isn't a myth, but a global empire built by aliens? The Anunnaki, gods from the stars, turned Earth into a mine and us into genetically modified slaves. The shocking truth: we didn't evolve. We were created for slavery. Horrific experiments, cosmic wars that destroyed planets, and hidden weapons ready to activate. What if they are returning right now? The most terrifying and scandalous part is at the end of the video. Don't look away. It will change your world forever. They erased all traces, burned libraries, melted metal plates, scattered the survivors to the most remote corners of the Earth. For millennia, the greatest civilization in human history was erased from our collective memory and relegated to the realm of myths and fantasies. But they made a crucial mistake. They failed to destroy the stones, hidden in cuneiform signs carved on clay tablets that predate recorded history, encoded in the mathematical precision of monuments that still defy explanation, encrypted in the very structure of our solar system. The evidence has survived. And if we decipher these ancient messages, a shocking truth will emerge that will change everything we knew about human civilization. Atlantis was real, but it wasn't just a single city that sank into the depths. It was a global kingdom spanning continents, possessing technologies that surpassed our modern capabilities, and ruled by beings who came from the stars. These beings, known in Sumerian texts as the Anunnaki, didn't just visit Earth. They turned it into the ultimate colonial outpost, a planetary mining complex run by genetically modified slaves. And those slaves were us. This is a forbidden history that they have been trying to hide for millennia. The shocking truth about Atlantis, the Anunnaki, and the cosmic war that destroyed the greatest civilization our planet has ever seen. Deep within the archives of the world's most prestigious universities lies evidence so explosive that most scholars don't dare speak its name aloud. The Enuma Elish, 7 clay tablets predating the Bible by millennia, contains not the mythological fantasies of primitive peoples, but the most accurate account of the origin of our solar system ever recorded. These are not the scribbles of ignorant ancient people telling stories around a campfire. These tablets have been copied for centuries, each cuneiform sign preserved with scientific precision. Generations of scribes dedicated their lives to preserving these records, viewing them not as entertainment, but as the most sacred and important knowledge possessed by mankind. If we study these tablets with the help of modern astronomical discoveries, something extraordinary will be revealed. The Sumerian account describes cosmic events that modern science has only recently confirmed. Gravitational captures of wandering planetary systems, fierce collisions that shaped our world, and, most shockingly, proof that we don't belong to this galaxy at all. The tablets speak of a time when our solar system was radically different. They describe a massive, water-covered planet called Tiamat, which was 4 to 6 times larger than Earth, and whose destruction led to the formation of the asteroid belt we see today. They tell of gravitational catastrophes that flipped planets around their axes and scattered debris across space. They document the arrival of a star system with a brown dwarf that fundamentally changed the orbital mechanics of every planet in our cosmic neighborhood. For decades, established science dismissed these accounts as primitive mythology. But then astronomers made a discovery that shattered their comfortable assumptions. Using data from advanced space telescopes, they traced the trajectory of our solar system back in time and discovered that we are not native to the Milky Way. We are cosmic refugees, survivors of a galactic collision that occurred millions of years ago. Our entire solar system originates from the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy, which is currently being consumed and assimilated by the larger Milky Way. We are located precisely at the point where these two galaxies merge, just as the ancient tablets described. How could people of the Bronze Age have known about intergalactic mechanics that we have only discovered with the most advanced space observatories? The answer is simple and terrifying. They were told by beings who survived these events firsthand. The cuneiform tablets describe not only cosmic catastrophes, they also document the arrival of the architects who are to rebuild our world and create human civilization as we know it. These beings, called the Anunnaki in Sumerian texts, did not come as gods seeking worship. They came as colonizers seeking resources and possessing the technological capabilities to rebuild entire planets to suit their needs. Modern astrophysics has confirmed what the tablets described. Our solar system is actually a binary star system, with a massive brown dwarf star orbiting our Sun every 4,200 years. This companion star, which astronomers now call Planet 9, has its own planetary system. 6 worlds that revolve in the outer regions of our cosmic neighborhood. From this hidden system came the Anunnaki, bringing technology that seemed godlike to the primitive hominids they encountered on Earth. But the tablets make it clear that these beings were not supernatural. They were explorers of flesh and blood, facing the same challenges as any other interplanetary civilization: resource scarcity, environmental degradation, and the need for a sustainable workforce. The Anunnaki's home planet was dying, their atmosphere was failing, and they needed vast quantities of gold to create atmospheric processes that could save their civilization. Earth, with its wealth of precious metals and suitable environment, was the perfect solution. But the work was hard and dangerous, and the Anunnaki leadership quickly discovered that their own people were not willing to do the brutal labor required for large-scale mining. The tablets describe how the Anunnaki working class, the Igigi, eventually rebelled against their overseers. Exhausted by years of grueling labor in a hostile environment, they surrounded their leaders' camps and demanded relief. The crisis threatened to collapse the entire colonial operation until one of the Anunnaki scientists suggested an elegant solution: the creation of a hybrid race that could take on the work while the Anunnaki maintained their technological civilization. This was not a divine creation motivated by love. It was a business problem motivated by profit margins and resource extraction quotas. The tablets describe the genetic process in disturbing detail: how Anunnaki genetic material was combined with existing Earth primates to create a worker race intelligent enough to follow complex instructions, but psychologically conditioned for slavery and obedience. They called their creation Adama, the first genetically modified humans. The result of this cosmic colonization project was not a single advanced city, but a planetary network of facilities, mining operations, and administrative centers spanning the globe. This was Atlantis, not Plato's island paradise, but the Anunnaki's name for their complete terraforming and resource extraction project. Evidence of this global infrastructure still surrounds us, hidden in plain sight. Ancient monuments on every continent demonstrate identical construction techniques, mathematical principles, and astronomical orientations that could only have been designed by a coordinating intelligence possessing advanced knowledge of Earth's position in space. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the most obvious example of this impossible ancient technology. This structure is not a tomb for primitive pharaohs, but a highly advanced data repository encoding precise measurements of Earth's relationship to the Sun, Moon, and distant stars. The dimensions of the pyramid contain the speed of light, the circumference of the Earth, the distance to the Sun, and dozens of other cosmic constants that modern science has only discovered with advanced tools. However, this evidence is irrefutable. The geographic coordinates of the pyramid, 29.9792 for 8 degrees north latitude, precisely matched the speed of light in meters per second, 299,792,458. This is not a coincidence. It is a proof that the builders possessed advanced physical knowledge and a sophisticated understanding of Earth's position in space that could only have been obtained through satellite observation. The mathematical relationships encoded in this single structure are astonishing in their accuracy and scope. The average distance to the Sun can be calculated by taking half the length of the diagonal of the base of the pyramid and multiplying by 10 to the 6th power. The average radius of Earth's orbit around the Sun, called the astronomical unit by astronomers, corresponds to the height of the pyramid multiplied by 10 to the 9th power. Even more remarkably, the pyramid encodes the exact distance to the Moon. The length of the internal passages, multiplied by 7 and then by 10 to the 7th power, yields the exact average distance between Earth and its satellite. The radius of the Sun can be calculated by taking double the perimeter of the granite box in the King's Chamber and multiplying by 10 to the 8th power. These are not approximations or coincidences. These are precise mathematical relationships requiring knowledge of astronomical distances that can only be measured from space. The ancient builders possessed orbital survey data, allowing them to encode fundamental measurements of our solar system into durable stone architecture, preserving this information for millennia. But the true function of the pyramid went far beyond data storage. Archaeological finds show that it served as a giant power plant, supplying ancient Egypt with wireless energy through a network of obelisks and conductive structures. The key to understanding this technology lies beneath the pyramid itself. Geological studies have confirmed that underground waterways once flowed directly beneath the structure, passing through layers of crystalline granite that form the pyramid's foundation. When water flows through magnetic crystalline matrices, it generates what physicists call piezoelectric energy, a phenomenon that converts mechanical pressure into electrical current. This natural energy generation was amplified by the pyramid's internal architecture. The Grand Gallery functioned as a resonant chamber where precisely tuned acoustic frequencies amplified the electrical power generated by the flowing water below. Missing resonator rods, whose mounting slots are still visible on the walls of the gallery, vibrated at specific frequencies, amplifying the electrical current passing through the structure. The King's Chamber served as the final amplification stage, where the accumulated electrical energy was focused and transmitted wirelessly through the top of the pyramid to be received by obelisks and other conductive monuments throughout the region. Anyone who owned a djed, an ancient Egyptian symbol that functioned as a portable electrical receiver, could connect to this wireless energy network to power lamps, tools, or industrial equipment. The precision required for these calculations implies orbital monitoring capabilities, accurately measuring the average height of the Earth's landmass, determining the exact center of the continental mass, and encoding these measurements into a durable stone structure requires technology that we have only developed in recent decades. However, this information was embedded in the pyramid thousands of years ago. The most shocking evidence of this orbital perspective comes from ancient maps showing impossible geographic knowledge. The Piri race map, created in 1513, but based on much older sources, depicts Antarctica without its ice cover and shows coastal details that strikingly match modern satellite images. The most telling aspect of this map is its perspective. It shows the world from a point directly above Cairo, which is exactly the position from which an observer satellite could monitor the region. Creating this map required not only knowledge of Antarctica before it was covered by ice sheets, but also the ability to project three-dimensional geographic data onto a two-dimensional surface using mathematical techniques that were only rediscovered in the space age. The source material for this map must have been created using orbital photography and advanced cartographic processing, technologies that supposedly only appeared in the 20th century. But here, the evidence becomes irrefutable. The metric system itself is not a modern invention. Cuneiform inscriptions describing a sophisticated system of measurement based on meters have been discovered in archaeological excavations in Mesoamerica, decades before the metric system was supposedly invented by French scientists. These ancient standards match our modern units with mathematical precision, proving that the pyramid builders possessed standardized units of measurement that we did not invent, but only rediscovered. This explains how the speed of light in meters per second can exactly match the coordinates of the pyramid. The builders were not just guessing, but using a system of measurement based on fundamental physical constants that remained hidden in ancient archives until modern researchers stumbled upon the same mathematical relationships. The tablets provide the missing link in this technological enigma. They describe how Enlil, one of the key Anunnaki leaders, constantly monitored Earth through what they called the all-seeing eye, an orbital surveillance system that tracked population movements, resource production, and potential security threats across the planet. This ancient satellite network was not mythology. It was a working technology that allowed the Anunnaki to manage their global colonial enterprise with unprecedented efficiency. The satellite's polar orbit provided complete scanning of the planet as the Earth rotated beneath it, generating the topographic data needed to calculate the average height of the Earth's landmass and determine the optimal locations for major installations. Modern attempts to recreate this observation system have confirmed its technical. The orbital mechanics described in ancient texts meet the requirements for maintaining stable observation platforms that could continuously monitor the Earth's surface and transmit data to ground command centers. This satellite network also explains why ancient cultures possessed impossible astronomical knowledge. Instead of discovering celestial mechanics through primitive ground-based observations, they received regular updates from orbital platforms that directly observed planetary movements, star positions, and cosmic phenomena invisible to astronomers on Earth. Inside the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid lies a granite container that holds the key to understanding one of history's most enigmatic artifacts, the Ark of the Covenant. This stone vessel, traditionally dismissed as a primitive sarcophagus, shares the exact same interior dimensions as the biblical Ark of the Covenant, a technological device so powerful it could kill instantly if mishandled. The granite box shows clear signs of exposure to a massive electrical discharge. One corner has been blown off, and the debris pattern indicates a release of energy that struck the opposite wall. This was not gradual erosion or primitive vandalism. It was the result of a catastrophic electrical failure in a high-voltage device. Biblical accounts of the Ark describe a container generating its own electrical field, producing visible sparks, and delivering lethal shocks to anyone who touched it without proper insulation. Modern electrical engineers analyzing these descriptions recognize the specifications of a large electrical capacitor, a device designed to store and discharge large amounts of electrical energy. The Ark's construction materials support this interpretation. Gold-plated surfaces separated by wooden insulation, specific proportions maximizing electrical storage capacity, and detailed instructions for safe handling that read like modern electrical safety protocols all point to an advanced understanding of electromagnetic principles supposedly non-existent in ancient times. University researchers have successfully built working replicas of the Ark to biblical specifications, generating electrical fields so powerful that the experiments had to be terminated for safety reasons. The devices produced the exact phenomena described in ancient texts: visible electrical discharges, dangerous electromagnetic fields, and the ability to sustain electrical charges over extended periods. The connection between the Ark and the pyramid's energy system becomes clear when we understand that the granite box served as the final amplification chamber for the pyramid's power generation system. The massive stone container was not meant for a pharaoh's body, but to focus and direct the electrical energy flowing through the pyramid's internal chambers. When the pyramid was operating, the granite box glowed with electrical discharges, producing the visible phenomena described in ancient accounts as divine fire or the glory of God. The Ark of the Covenant was likely a portable version of this technology, using the same electromagnetic principles on a smaller scale. This explains why both devices required such precise design specifications and elaborate safety protocols. These were not religious artifacts, but advanced technological tools, providing the Anunnaki colonial administration with wireless energy transmission, defensive capabilities, and communication systems. The satellite's polar orbit provided complete scanning of the planet as Earth rotated beneath it, and generated the topographic data required to calculate the average height of the Earth's landmass and determine optimal locations for major installations. Modern attempts to recreate this observation system have confirmed its technical feasibility. The orbital mechanics described in ancient texts meet the requirements for maintaining stable observation platforms that could continuously monitor the Earth's surface and transmit data to ground command centers. This satellite network also explains why ancient cultures possessed impossible astronomical knowledge. Instead of discovering celestial mechanics through primitive ground-based observations, they received regular updates from orbital platforms that directly observed planetary movements, star positions, and cosmic phenomena invisible to astronomers on Earth. As the Anunnaki colonial operation matured, conflicts arose between factions of leaders, competition for resources, territorial disputes, and ideological differences eventually escalated into wars that devastated their carefully constructed infrastructure. Tablets describe global catastrophes, technological weapons of mass destruction, and environmental disasters that forced the majority of Anunnaki personnel to evacuate Earth. However, the investment was too valuable to abandon completely. Instead of a full retreat, the Anunnaki implemented a long-term recovery plan centered around a remarkable figure known in Egyptian records as Thoth, in Greek tradition as Hermes, and in Mesoamerican legends as Quetzalcoatl. This single figure appears in cultures around the world and is always associated with one task: rebuilding civilization after a great catastrophe. Tablets describe Thoth as an Atlantean priest-king, a hybrid descendant of the original Anunnaki colonists with access to their advanced technology and knowledge. After the global flood that destroyed much of the original infrastructure, Thoth was tasked with implementing a planetary recovery program that would both preserve Anunnaki influence and rebuild human civilization. His mission began with a journey described in the tablets in terms that can only be interpreted as a spaceflight. Thoth ascended into the sky until the planet disappeared and then descended towards a designated landing site where he found a great temple rising from the mud below. This was not metaphorical language. It was technical documentation of an orbital ascent and controlled descent to the planet's surface. Upon landing, Thoth encountered resistance from traumatized human survivors who attacked his team with primitive weapons. The tablets describe how he neutralized this threat with a staff emitting vibrations that struck them like rocks in the mountains. This corresponds exactly to what modern militaries call an active denial system, a directed energy weapon that incapacitates without killing. After establishing security, Thoth began systematically rebuilding human civilization according to Anunnaki directives. He wasn't simply building individual structures, but implementing a comprehensive architectural program, re-establishing the mathematical and astronomical principles that dominated the original Atlantean civilization. Most importantly, the tablets record Thoth's instructions to his team. Now go around the planet and replicate what we have done here. This explains why ancient monuments on every continent exhibit identical construction techniques, proportions, and astronomical alignments. They were not built by different cultures independently developing similar ideas. They were erected according to a single, overarching plan implemented by teams coordinated by Thoth. The most startling evidence of this coordinated construction program is hidden within the plan of the Giza Plateau itself. When analyzed using modern surveying techniques and compared to current NASA data about our solar system, an impossible pattern is revealed. The pyramids and temples of Giza form an accurate scale model of the inner solar system, complete with precise planet positions, orbital mechanics, and astronomical units. This is not coincidence or fanciful interpretation. The correlations are mathematically exact. If lines are drawn connecting specific points on the Giza monuments according to a precise geometric protocol, a diagram emerges that perfectly matches the orbital patterns of Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, as seen from above the solar system. The accuracy is astounding. Not only do the positions align, but the relative sizes of the monuments correspond to the relative masses of the planets they represent. Orbital mechanics are accurate to modern astronomical standards. Even the elliptical nature of the planetary orbits is correctly encoded in the monument arrangement. The creation of this cosmic map required detailed knowledge of interplanetary space that could only be acquired through direct observation from beyond Earth's atmosphere. The builders had to know the precise distances between the planets, the exact mechanics of their orbital relationships, and the mathematical principles of celestial mechanics throughout the solar system. This knowledge was then encoded into durable stone structures using an elaborate geometric system, preserving the information for millennia. Future civilizations with sufficient mathematical sophistication would eventually be able to decipher the message and understand that Earth was once visited by beings with advanced knowledge of cosmic mechanics. But the message encoded in the Giza plan holds another shocking revelation. When the geometric protocol is applied to the outer solar system, it reveals the positions of planets only officially discovered in modern times, including the brown dwarf star astronomers today call Planet 9. The ancient architects of Giza knew not only about our solar system as seen from Earth, they knew about the entire binary star system, including celestial bodies remaining invisible to ground-based observations. This knowledge could only come from beings who had traveled through the system and mapped it firsthand. The technological capabilities required for global planetary management become even more impressive when we examine the evidence of the Anunnaki orbital surveillance system. Multiple ancient texts mention an all-seeing eye, providing real-time information about population movements, resource production, and potential security threats across the planet. This was not mystical omniscience, but advanced satellite technology enabling central monitoring and control of a planetary-scale colonial operation. The system allowed Anunnaki administrators to track crop yields, monitor population centers, identify potential zones of rebellion, and coordinate responses to security threats with unprecedented efficiency. Tablets describe how this surveillance network was used to maintain control over the population through targeted interventions. When human populations grew too large or too independent, aerial spraying would destroy crops and reduce local food supplies, forcing migrations or birth rate declines. Parallels to modern atmospheric modification programs are obvious. The technical specifications required for this surveillance system explain many of the impossible mathematical relationships encoded into ancient monuments. Calculating the average height of the Earth's landmass requires scanning the entire surface of the planet from orbit. Determining the exact center of the continental landmass requires global topographic mapping. Measuring astronomical distances with the precision found in pyramid mathematics requires satellite-based observation platforms. The most remarkable evidence for this orbital infrastructure comes from the analysis of ancient maps showing impossible perspectives of Earth's geography. The Piri race map, for example, depicts Antarctica without its ice cover from a perspective only possible from a satellite directly above Cairo. The mathematical projections used to create this map align exactly with what orbital photography would yield with modern observation satellites. The consistency of this evidence across multiple cultures and epochs suggests that the Anunnaki surveillance network remained operational long after the departure of the main colonial population from Earth. The satellites continued transmitting data that human civilizations incorporated into their maps, monuments, and mythological traditions for thousands of years after direct contact ended. This explains why ancient cultures around the world possessed astronomical knowledge that seemed impossible for ground-based observers. They were not discovering this information with primitive tools, but receiving it from an advanced orbital network that continued to transmit data according to its original programming. Evidence for Anunnaki colonial operations extends far beyond Earth itself. Modern satellite imagery of Mars reveals structures, artifacts, and geographic anomalies suggesting the red planet was an important part of the ancient interplanetary infrastructure. High-resolution images from various Mars missions showed geometric structures appearing artificial, carved faces representing multiple human ethnicities, and technological artifacts entirely out of place on a supposedly dead planet. These are not ambiguous rock formations resembling familiar objects, but clearly defined structures with precise geometric properties not found in natural geological processes. Tablets describe Mars as one of the key mining outposts, where the Agigi worker class extracted resources under harsh environmental conditions. The planet's damaged atmosphere, scarred surface, and evidence of ancient catastrophic floods align with Sumerian accounts of wars and environmental disasters that eventually forced the evacuation of most Anunnaki installations. The most intriguing evidence is the distribution of carved faces found on the surface of Mars. High-resolution analysis reveals images of African, Caucasian, and indigenous ethnicities, the same genetic variations found in the human population on Earth. This suggests Mars may have been home to diverse human populations during the height of the Anunnaki colonial era. The implications are staggering. If the genetic experiments that produced modern humans were conducted on multiple worlds, then Earth was just one part of a vast interplanetary civilization that included Mars, the moons of the outer planets, and possibly installations throughout the binary star system. Symbols of electrical infrastructure found on Mars, identical to Egyptian D-Jed pillars and other ancient energy transmission devices, suggest the planets were connected by technological networks enabling communication, transportation, and resource sharing across interplanetary distances. Most disturbing is the evidence of military conflicts preserved in images from Mars. Objects appearing to be damaged vehicles, defensive installations, and weapon systems suggest the planet was abandoned not due to gradual environmental degradation, but because of some sort of warfare. The scale of this ancient conflict becomes clear when we examine evidence of advanced weaponry preserved in both terrestrial and extraterrestrial archaeological tablets. Describe weapons that freeze enemies like stone without killing, devices that tear the earth and swallow enemy forces, and flying platforms capable of destroying entire cities with targeted energy bursts. These are not mythological exaggerations, but technical descriptions of weapon systems that modern militaries are only beginning to develop. The active denial system, currently used by advanced militaries, employs directed microwave energy to create a sensation of intense heat, forcing targets to retreat without permanent damage, much like the ice vibration weapons described in Thoth's reports on subduing hostile populations. Similarly, modern research into seismic weapons has confirmed the feasibility of generating localized earthquakes through precisely directed acoustic frequencies, a technology that could indeed open the earth and swallow enemy forces, as described in ancient texts. The acoustic properties of megalithic structures around the world suggest that many of these monuments served both for construction and defense, generating and focusing seismic vibrations. Aerial combat platforms described in various ancient texts, from Ezekiel's chariot with wheels within wheels to the Vimanas in Hindu epics, display characteristics that modern aerospace engineers recognize as advanced engine and weapon systems. The ability to hover silently, instantly change direction, generate protective electromagnetic fields, and emit destructive energy beams suggest technology far surpassing current human capabilities. Archaeological finds support these textual accounts. Vitrified rock formations found worldwide exhibit characteristics indicating temperatures exceeding 1500 degrees Celsius, heat that could only have been generated by directed energy weapons or nuclear explosions. The uniformity of this vitrification across multiple sites suggests a coordinated use of standardized weapon systems rather than isolated natural disasters. The global distribution of these vitrified sites largely corresponds with locations mentioned in ancient texts as battlefields between rival Anunnaki factions. Evidence suggests that the final phase of their colonial presence was marked by devastating wars, leaving permanent scars on both Earth and Mars, and ultimately leading to the evacuation of most extraterrestrial personnel and the abandonment of active colonial operations. However, the weapon technology was not entirely removed. Ancient texts describe hidden armories and sealed repositories containing advanced weapon systems to be activated upon the Anunnaki's return. Recently detected electromagnetic anomalies at various archaeological sites suggest that some of these systems may be responding to signals from the approaching brown dwarf system and preparing for reactivation after millennia of dormancy. The implications are terrifying. If the returning Anunnaki possess weapons capable of destroying the entire planet, and if their ancient arsenals begin to reactivate, humanity could face a technological war that would annihilate our race within hours of direct confrontation. Our only hope may lie in activating latent abilities embedded within our genetic structure before the return protocol is fully implemented. The technological sophistication of the Anunnaki colonial system extended beyond physical infrastructure and into realms we are only now beginning to understand. Mind manipulation through electromagnetic frequency modulation. Ancient texts describe how the Anunnaki maintained control over the human population not just through physical force, but also through the emission of specific frequencies that influence behavior, emotions, and cognitive functions on a planetary scale. The Great Pyramid is the most obvious example of this technology. Rather than serving as a tomb, the structure functioned as a giant frequency generator, broadcasting electromagnetic energy throughout Egypt and potentially even worldwide. The internal chambers, acoustic properties, and geographical location of the pyramid were precisely calculated to generate specific harmonic frequencies capable of influencing human neuronal activity. the mathematical constant of 432 Hz, now known as a natural resonant frequency most conducive to human consciousness and cellular repair, is encoded within all dimensions of the pyramid. When the structure was operational, it would have emitted this healing frequency throughout the region, supporting the health and mental stability of the local population, while simultaneously making them psychologically receptive to Anunnaki authority. This explains how a relatively small number of extraterrestrial colonists could maintain control over millions of genetically modified humans across multiple continents. Rather than relying solely on physical coercion, they used frequency manipulation to induce psychological states that made rebellion nearly impossible, while simultaneously enhancing productivity and obedience. A network of pyramids, obelisks, and stone circles found on every continent served as transmission and reception points for this global frequency control system. Each installation was precisely placed along Earth's electromagnetic grid lines to maximize the effectiveness of mind manipulation for the entire global population. Modern research into neuronal frequency modulation has confirmed that specific electromagnetic wavelengths can indeed influence human behavior, emotional states, and cognitive functions. Technologies that seemed mystical to ancient peoples were actually advanced applications of principles we are only now beginning to understand. The 33rd degree of Masonic initiation, the highest level of this ancient knowledge preservation system, focuses specifically on achieving escape velocity from Earth's gravitational field. This is not a metaphorical spiritual attainment, but a literal preparation for spaceflight. The number 33 represents the velocity multiplier required to escape Earth's gravity, 30 times the speed of sound. This suggests that the ultimate goal of the mystery schools that preserved Anunnaki knowledge was to prepare humanity for an eventual return to space, either to reunite with our creators or to establish our own independent interstellar civilization. Ancient tablets not only describe humanity's past, but also contain specific information about what the Anunnaki planned for our future. Indications of cyclical returns, astronomical configurations, and technological reactivation suggest that the colonial infrastructure was equipped with built-in protocols for re-establishing direct control when certain conditions were met. The 4,200-year orbital period of the brown dwarf appears repeatedly in ancient texts as a time frame for the return of the gods. This is not a metaphorical prophecy. These are calculations made by the departing colonists about when their home star system would pass close enough to Earth again to make interplanetary travel practical. Modern astronomical calculations confirm that we are nearing such an orbital configuration. Gravitational effects from the approaching brown dwarf system are already being recorded by space-based observatories, though this information is rarely discussed in mainstream scientific publications. Reactivation of ancient sites worldwide, unexplained energy emanations from pyramids, spontaneous electromagnetic activity within stone circles, and enigmatic frequency transmissions from archaeological locations suggest that dormant Anunnaki infrastructure is responding to signals from the approaching system. Governmental space agencies have dramatically increased their monitoring of near-Earth objects, established new space surveillance networks, and begun to prepare the public for the disclosure of extraterrestrial contact. These preparations appear to be following protocols established thousands of years ago for managing the human population during direct Anunnaki presence. The genetic modifications that spawned modern humans included specific psychological and physiological traits designed to facilitate reintegration into Anunnaki society. Our race was created not merely as a temporary labor force, but as permanent colonial subjects who could be recalled into service upon the return of their creators. But there is another possibility encoded within the ancient records. Some texts suggest that the genetic engineering process embedded latent abilities within human DNA to be activated over time, rather than remaining slaves forever. We may have been engineered for eventual technological independence and ascension to a mature, interstellar race. The question is whether we can activate these dormant abilities before the return protocol is implemented. This is a race between human awakening and the reactivation of Anunnaki control systems. The deepest evidence of humanity's extraterrestrial origins lies not in ancient tablets or enigmatic monuments, but in our own genetic structure. Modern DNA analyses have revealed anomalies indicating artificial modification of human chromosomes at some point in our race's evolution. Geneticists have discovered apparently useless DNA sequences exhibiting traits of artificial genetic insertions rather than natural evolutionary development. These sequences appear to serve as regulatory mechanisms controlling the expression of various physical and psychological traits, precisely what we would expect from a genetic program designed to generate specific behavioral characteristics. Even more intriguingly, certain genetic sequences appear to be activated by specific external triggers, such as electromagnetic frequencies and astronomical configurations. This suggests that our DNA may contain dormant abilities intended for activation under specific conditions, perhaps upon the return of our creators, or when humanity reaches a sufficient technological level. The rapid acceleration of human technological capabilities in the last century may represent the activation of these built-in genetic programs. Our sudden ability to travel into space, develop global communication networks, and manipulate genetic codes may not be natural evolutionary developments, but programmed awakenings of capabilities always present within our genetic structure. Psychological and spiritual changes reported by a growing number of people, enhanced intuitive abilities, expanded awareness, and direct telepathic communication may represent the activation of neural capacities suppressed during our era as a controlled slave race. If this interpretation is correct, humanity stands at a critical evolutionary crossroads. Either we are on the cusp of achieving our intended ascension as an independent interstellar civilization, or we are nearing the point where our genetic programming will render us obedient servants to returning masters. The decision may depend on how many people become aware of their true nature and consciously activate their latent abilities before the return protocol is fully implemented. When all the evidence is assembled, the astronomical knowledge preserved in ancient texts, the impossible mathematical precision of megalithic monuments, the global distribution of identical construction techniques, the orbital monitoring capabilities encoded in pyramid mathematics, the genetic anomalies in human DNA, and the impending return of the brown dwarf system, there is only one reasonable conclusion. We are not the first technological civilization on Earth. We are not even the second. We are the manipulated descendants of a genetic program conducted by an interstellar race that used our planet as a resource extraction colonial outpost for hundreds of thousands of years. Our myths, religions, and historical traditions preserve fragmented memories of this cosmic heritage, but the full truth has been systematically suppressed by those who benefit from keeping humanity ignorant of its true origins and capabilities. The Anunnaki have not disappeared. They have simply shifted from direct control to remote control, using hybrids, bloodlines, technological infrastructure, and genetic programming to maintain their colonial system, while giving humanity the illusion of independence. But now, the cycle is closing. The brown dwarf system is approaching. Ancient sites are reactivating. Governmental agencies are preparing for disclosure. And somewhere in the depths of space, our creators may already be planning their return to a world they never truly left. The question that will determine the future of humanity is simple. Will we greet them as grateful slaves? Or will we confront them as equals, finally awakened to our cosmic heritage? The tablets preserved the truth for precisely this moment. The monuments encoded the knowledge we will need. The genetic programming embedded the abilities that can liberate us. It all depends on whether enough people recognize the evidence, embrace the truth, and choose conscious evolution over continued servitude. The ancient texts agree on one point. This is not just about the history of humanity. This is about the future of consciousness itself in a universe where intelligence takes many forms, travels between the stars, and shapes worlds to its will. We stand at the precipice between transcendence and enslavement. The cosmic war that destroyed Atlantis is about to reignite. And this time, the outcome will determine whether Earth remains a colonial outpost or becomes the birthplace of a truly free interstellar civilization. The stars are calling. The question is, are we ready to answer? The ancient tablets contain far more than we have discussed here. Deep within the cuneiform inscriptions are hidden technical specifications, star charts, and genetic codes that could revolutionize human civilization if we decipher them before the return of our creators. The next revelation awaits those brave enough to confront the ultimate truth about humanity's cosmic destiny.